So let's get going. Welcome tonight, guys. We're going to be talking about sharing stories. And a lot of people sort of think this is fairly straightforward. But to be perfectly frank with you, this is the absolute nuts and bolts of our business. And if you can't get the story sharing correct, then building the business on top of that becomes really, really difficult. And it was never more obvious to me than in 2015, when we're at Hamilton Island. And up until that point in this business, I've got to put my hands up and say that I was just all about the science. For me, it was all about the science and telling people the facts and the features and benefits of our product. But from that moment and watching a couple of our very special leaders step up and shine, but also watching some of the other teams start to really grow, what I realized was that where the growth was happening was around sharing stories. And we always use the saying, facts tell, but stories sell. And that is absolutely the case with both our products and also our business. And so tonight, this is really an opportunity to spend some time hearing about the basic principles of sharing your story, and also listening to some of our success leaders who have some wonderful stories that they've really managed to build their business on. So I guess the way that we often start with our business is in asking questions. We've all talked about the importance of being the master asker and really get into the game of asking lots and lots of questions of people. But at some point in time, the attention is going to come back to yourself. And more often than not, the conversation comes around to the very simple question of, so tell me about what you do, or so tell me about, why you find this product so fantastic. And you've got to absolutely be prepared. The worst thing in the world is when you wing it and you're umming and ahhing and erring all over the place. It doesn't paint great confidence in the person listening to your story if you're not coming with a story that comes from a place of passion, comes from a place of confidence, and is polished and practiced. Now, I'd be the first person to say that the story that comes out of my mouth is very dependent upon the conversation that I'm having. It's not exactly the same every time. If it was, then I obviously wouldn't be listening to the conversation and those little triggers that help to shape the story. But most certainly the bones of my story remain very similar every single time. And having told my stories now some thousands of times, I feel quite confident in rattling that off. And often it's in those really unexpected places that you rattle the story off. It might be standing in line at the shopping centre. It might be talking to the barista while he's whipping up your cappuccino. It might be standing outside school while you're waiting for your kids to come out of the classroom. So you've got to make sure that the story that you have is ready to go, so that in that moment you can just reel it off in that very polished and practiced way. Because it's not just about what you say, but it's also the way that you say. In fact, our non-verbal communication is as powerful as the words that come out of our mouth. So the posture that we have, the attitude that we have, and the mindset from which we come when we share our story is just as important. And often that attitude and mindset comes from the confidence that you have about your story. So you can see how those two things start to really play off each other. So that is why having a confident and powerful and polished story is so absolutely important. And there's two aspects to the story that you need to have. You need to have your product story and you need to have your business story. And it doesn't actually matter how long you've been in this business, whether you've been in this business 5 minutes or you've been in this business 5 years or even 15 years. Everybody has a story, because in order for you to have taken the product, then you had to have had a story. even if you haven't had any great transformation around the product as yet, you still have a story as to why you started the product. So, for example, when I share my story, and my story certainly has evolved, but when I share my story, I'll often say, look, I first heard about Juice Plus when I was 23 years of age. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was working in the health arena. I was not necessarily practicing it, but I was preaching the importance of health and well-being. And for some reason, I just wouldn't, or didn't get enough fruits and veggies. So I was looking for something to bridge the gap. And this is what Juice Plus was. It bridged the gap between what I didn't consume and what I did consume and what I actually should be consuming every day. And not just that, but all of my clients, friends and family around me were exactly the same. So this was a perfect gap filler for me. And so that story, even though there's nothing about the fact that it reduced my colds and flus, improved my skin, my hair, whatever it might be, even though there's no perfect transformational story in there, I still had a story. So every person on this call tonight who is on the Juice Plus products, even if you don't have some amazing transformational story around your health, you still have a story as to why you started Juice Plus. And it's perfectly okay, particularly depending on the conversation that you're having, to share the story of somebody else until you feel that you have perfected yours. And what I don't mean is that you take it and own it as yourself, but share the story of somebody else's experience. But certainly it's really important to make sure that you understand that from the outset, you need to be working on your product story. So one of the greatest resources we have, given that we have this tried and proven system that we can follow, is on our virtual office. So on your virtual office, on the dashboard, at the very top of the dashboard, there's a franchisee training section that you can click on. And if you go into that training section, and you go to the title that says Getting Started, you'll actually find your starter guide. Now, this is a guide that we all used to receive in our starter pack. I think now you get it as a USB that gets delivered to you and it's on there, but everybody can access this on their virtual office. And in that starter guide, you will find a performer by which you can create your story. So I'm just flicking through that now. In fact, what I'll do is I'll share screen so I can show you exactly what it looks like. There it is. Okay, can everybody see that? That's the starter guide right there. Can I have hands up? Can everybody see that? Yeah, fantastic, great. Okay, so this is what our starter guide looks like. To some of us, we remember it as a physical book. Those of us who come out of the dark ages and like paper and pen. To those of you who are young, computer and keyboard. So this is what your starter guide looks like. And flicking all the way through, past join the mission, sharing your story. So you can use this performer right here to create your own Juice Plus product story. Now, this might seem very regimented and very structured, but it's actually a really good place to start. And once you've built this basic, I guess, skeleton of your story, you can start to build the emotion on top of it and start to really perfect it and have it roll off your tongue. So can I suggest that everybody go through this process themselves? If you haven't created a really short, sharp and succinct story. So it's as simple as this. I first heard about Juice Plus from, or even something like I first heard about Juice Plus when. It doesn't really matter, but fill that out. Juice Plus made sense to me because, again, it can make sense to you because you were like me, you didn't get 2 and 5 every day, or you were working dawn till dusk and you knew you didn't look after yourself. Whatever it is, it made sense to you because of some reason. And then finally, since I've added Juice Plus to my diet, you might want to talk about some transformations. So this is just a really great structure on which to base your story. And it's really from that point on that you can start to really build the story. Now, the other aspect to it is it needs to be short. Far too often, I'm listening to stories and I'm looking at my watch 5 minutes later and the story's still going. That's the quickest way to have people shut off and stop listening to your story. So you need to make sure your story is less than a minute, ideally, definitely less than 2 minutes. One of the greatest things that I learned most recently, I went to listen to Kimmy Brooke, who is the wife of Richard Bliss Brooke, who wrote The 4-Year Career. She was in Perth very recently. And they're working with another network marketing company. But the greatest thing about her presentation was the clarity and vision of her story. So I could feel, hear, see, touch, smell everything that she was talking about when she was telling her story around the business. And so it's really important that as you're creating this story, you can really visualize it in your mind, because if you can visualize it, then you know that your prospects are able to visualize it as well. So I really would love, I'm just going to take myself off pin, I really would love to have a couple of people who have some fantastic stories just around the product to spend a couple of minutes just sharing it, so you can really hear about, you can hear the value of these short, sharp and succinct stories. So Bronnie, I know I ask you to share your story all of the time, but I just think your product story is a fantastic one of transformation. You're unmuted.
Oh, thanks. Hi everyone. Okay, well my product story started 19 years ago, and I was a 52-year-old woman that was working in corporate health, and my health was in a terrible, terrible place. And I received a phone call from Tamara, and she basically said to me, "Mum, I would like you to go on this product." And the first thing I said to her was, "How much?" And when she told me, I said, "I can't afford it." And then she said to me, she pulled my heartstrings, and she basically said, "Mum, I need you to be around when I get married. I need you to be around when I have kids." And then she said to me, "Mum, your mum wasn't around for us." And I had lost my mum when she was very, very young. And that really, all of a sudden, it hit me, and I reflected on that, and I decided I wanted to be around, and I was going down a terrible health road. So what happened then was I was basically sometimes up to 15 coffees a day and a bottle of red wine every night. So you can imagine what sort of detox I went through. Well, my health journey has continued all those years, where I basically have had lots of changes, and I challenge myself all the time. Whenever when we brought in a program, Shred 10, Transformation Complete, and when we brought those programs in, I embraced them. I have embraced every part of my journey. And then at the beginning of this year, I decided to take my health to another level. So I basically joined a gym. And I have to tell you, my vitality and my zest for life is second to none. And I have loved being on this journey. And I challenge everybody to have a go.
Brilliant, Bronnie. Thanks very much. Hey, Lucy Dixon, you've got a great story to share. Can I get you to unmute? And again, you know how important the 2 minutes is, my friend.
I've been practicing.
Good girl. Off you go.
Mine was around my daughter Bo. My second daughter was 3.5, 4 years old, and chronic severe asthma, was on 4 or 5 different types of medication every day of her life, and still was being hospitalized for 5 days at a time because her asthma was still so severe. I went to an in-home event begrudgingly, have to say, kicking and screaming, to support a friend. And as cliched as it sounds, that that day changed our family's lives forever. I left with gummies in my hand, having ordered the product, and changed everything in our house with regards to food. And within 8 months, my daughter was medication free. She's now 10, still on the product, and runs into school cross country, whereas before she couldn't run 5 paces in front of her. So yeah, that's part of our story anyway.
Fantastic. Thanks, Luce. Does anyone else want to put up their hand, unmute the line, and have a go at sharing a story? I can't see.
Hello, Sam. It's Kat here.
Caitlin, how are you, love? Go for it.
Hello, good. Okay, so I was first introduced to Juice Plus 4 years ago when I was working full-time in a gym. I was a personal trainer and completely exhausted. There was no way I was eating the recommended levels of 2 and 5 fruit and veg every single day. And a lady, Valerie, came into the gym. She introduced me to the product, and it simply made sense to me. I knew I wasn't getting the right levels of nutrition, so I started taking Juice Plus. And within the first 2 weeks, I started to notice that my energy improved. In the 4 weeks, I noticed my skin was so much healthier. And from that moment on, I just knew that Juice Plus was something I needed to take to improve my health.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And the great thing about these stories, guys, is that they're not sensationalist. They're not making massive claims. They're just talking about the reality of how Juice Plus made sense. And that's the beauty of our product, is that it's just fruits and vegetables. And so we don't need to sensationalize it to try and explain it to people. It's just about the simple message of getting more fruits and veggies. Thanks, guys. So the other important aspect is our business story, and again, you've got to absolutely nail this one, and you've often got a really beautiful opportunity if you're prospecting someone for the business to just plant that little seed of curiosity. You might be building a business online and someone might say to you, what do you do? And you might say something as simple as, I help parents build an online business from home, or I help mamas build businesses around their kids, or I help young people to establish international business online. So whatever your modus operandi is, you have the opportunity to just drop it with that one-liner. And obviously many of us are building on social media, so we've got that opportunity. If anybody here, if any of our leaders here just want to type into the chat section there, their simple one-liner, their curiosity, their little hook that they have to start that conversation, to share with the team as to what they use that's been really valuable to start those conversations, that'd be really fantastic, and everybody can check it out there. But beyond that, someone's going to say to you, well, what do you mean by that? And so once again, you really want to craft that business story. And again, in our starter guide, so I'm just going to once again share screen. In our starter guide, you've got the opportunity of creating a skeleton for that business story. So this is further along in the manual. This is now on page 17 of the manual. Develop your business story by completing the following statements. So something as simple as, I was excited to share Juice Plus with others because, or I was attracted to the Juice Plus business because, and then something like, what I see for myself and my family is this. So for example, with myself, I first saw the opportunity with the business because I was desperately wanting to go back to university, and living in arguably Australia's most expensive city, Sydney. I didn't know how I was going to achieve my dreams of going back to university to study medicine. And so what I was attracted to was the opportunity to build a business with like-minded people, with a product that made sense to me, and build a business in the flexible hours around my university studies, such that on uni holidays I could work really hard, and then when I was sitting exam, my business took a back seat. And so just that, it was quite an attractive statement. Now a lot of people say to me, why do you build the Juice Plus business? Well, for me, it's I work in traditional business, so where I exchange time for money. I might impact on the health and life of maybe 30 to 40 patients per week, but this business allows me to impact on the lives of tens of thousands of people that I either know or don't know around the world. So just, simple little things like that. It's a business that allows me to leverage my time, whereas I spend my traditional job, I exchange time for money, but this enables me to leverage my time and build business when I'm asleep, or just little things like that. But building that skeleton out of the workbook there is going to help you to really craft your story. So can I again, Val, I think you've got a great business story. Do you think, I'm just going to unmute you. Do you think you can share your business story?
Great. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. My voice is still husky from Tony Robbins. So I'm going to share 3, but they're literally 30 seconds each. And a person gave me a really good little tool. And if I can give this gift to you guys, I've got my story down so pat that I picture myself on an elevator or in an elevator or an escalator in an airport. And I want to have shared my story, added them on Facebook by the time on that escalator, because I was the waffle queen. So I have a backbone, I have a skeleton, exactly what Tamara says, but I mold it to the person in front of me. So if I'm talking to a family, I'm like, my hubby and I help families create an additional income online through our lifestyle business. That's it. Because I want them to ask me, and then I want to add them on Facebook and I want to elaborate. So if I was talking to a family, my hubby and I help families create an additional income online through our lifestyle business. If I'm talking to a mum from the school, I coach and mentor mummies to create an income from home with our home-based business model. If I'm talking to a Gen Y, I help young people create a side hustle business online around their lifestyle. That's it. I basically mold it. If it's to someone that is maybe in the retirement, I would mold it to that. So I have a very skeleton, a very base, but I mold it to the person in front of me, because if I see a mum with 5 kids, I'm not going to talk about a side hustle, talking about traveling the world. She's going to be like, oh, I don't want to travel. I don't even have a passport. So I have to be very conscious who's in front of me, catch them in my net straight away, be strong, be confident. So then they message me and say, I want to know more, because we all know the answers are in the questions that they're going to ask. And that's all I say.
That's beautiful. So Val, I just want to expand on that a little bit further. You would then share something with them, but at some point in time, you're going to have a conversation where someone's going to turn around to you and say, Val, what have you seen in this business? Why do you do this Juice Plus business? Do you have something there?
I say, yep, absolutely. What it's really done for my husband and I is create a 6-figure income, and it's allowed my husband to retire from our traditional business, which gives us more time with our children.
Beautiful. Love it.
But that's not the opening line. Their first line is relating to them, and then I come back with that. Then if they say I want to know more, then I have systems in place.
Beautiful.
I want to hit the heart on the second time round.
Brilliant. Judy King, you're over there in Bangkok. Do you reckon you could share your story, my love?
Hey, yeah, nothing like throwing me in the deep end there. Awesome.
But this is what's going to happen, right? You're going to be in a conversation with somebody, and you're going to send them a link, and then they're going to say, but Judy, why do you do this?
Yeah, why I do this? Well, I do this because I found myself in a position that I didn't really want to be in. I was working for a company and 8 months pregnant and lost my job, and so did my now fiance. So we both decided that we didn't want to work for somebody else, and we wanted to be totally independent. And obviously I'm very passionate about helping other people to create something that is, creating their freedom, whatever that looks like for them. And that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Does anybody else want to share a business story or nominate somebody to share a business story?
Jess.
Jessie Phillips. Anybody? This is your opportunity, guys. Imagine
Oh,
you're.
that's
Is that you, Jess?
I'm not on the couch this week, and I've got all my girls' washing hanging up behind me.
All right. Share your business story.
Okay, so I was working as a financial planner before this, and then I got pregnant and had twins that are now 19 months old. And I didn't want to go back to corporate work. I didn't want to have to put them in childcare because of the ridiculous fees. And I knew that was something else that people must do to stay at home and make money. So I actually went searching for something else, and I had an ad come across my timeline, and I reached out to the person, and she introduced to me the product, which I fell in love with straight away and thought, I need this because I don't eat properly now because I don't have time to eat. So a pill was great. And then she told me about the business, and I just thought, I need to do this. I love health. I love fitness. I loved everything about the product, and I knew that I could make it work. I'm a very business-minded person, and if I can see people that have success in this business, and I know that I can create that too. So for me, it was all about wanting to stay home with my twin girls and not have to do the mummy rush in the morning and drop them off at the daycare and then go to work and deal with finances that just doesn't float my boat anymore, and then come home and deal with the husband and then all the rest of it and repeat. I just didn't want to do that.
Beautiful. That's great, Jessie. Thank you so much. That's really, really powerful. Amber's asked a really fantastic question. What if you don't really have a business journey yet? And it's a very valid question when you're first starting out. So once again, first thing that I would suggest you do is go and download that A4 sheet out of the starter guide and go through the motions of doing that performer. So I was excited to share the Juice Plus with others because I was attracted to the Juice Plus business because what I've seen from myself and my family. And what will happen is that your business story will start to develop out of that, because the very fact that you're on this call tonight means that you have a business story. You've embraced this business for some reason. It's either that you've heard somebody else's story, and it's really quite fine in the beginning to be sharing somebody else's story. But if you've just started out in this business, you've still got a story because you've made a decision why you've decided to take on this virtual franchisee. It might be that you want to get out of corporate. It might be that you want to develop a business around your family, or it might be that you love the idea of travel and you want to develop a global business and you're in the process of doing that. So I still believe if you're brand new in this business, and you can still develop a business story, and it will evolve. I can tell you right now, mine has evolved from the 23-year-old wanting to go to university to now somebody who enjoys multiple streams of income, because you never know what is around the corner. So it gives us that financial security. So there's loads of stories that you can share. The most important thing out of all of this, guys, to know is that you've got to get along to the events to hear the stories so that you can share them, and it will help to mold yours as well. If you're not showing up to the events, getting on the online Zoom events, then you're not hearing the stories that are going to motivate and inspire you and help you to craft your own stories. So if there's one piece of information that I would take away from tonight, and that is that you get to the events as many times as you can to hear the different stories, because certainly every event that I go to, it helps me to craft my story as well. So we've come up to the half an hour, and I'm mindful of the fact that there are people who have other events after this. Are there any quick questions that anybody has? There's been a few posted in the chat. No, everybody's on board. Fantastic. So all the upcoming events that I'm going to hear some really well-crafted 2-minute long stories that have got lots of vision associated with them. Fantastic. And don't forget, write down your story, share it with your sponsor, and share it with passion, and they can help you to really craft it. One last thing before we finish up. I'm just